Smoke and fire filled the barren landscape of the planet as the last remnants of a skirmish drifted across the scarred horizon. Craters and twisted metal littered the ground where ships had fallen, and the acrid smell of burnt machinery hung heavy in the air. Amidst this chaos, a single figure struggled to rise from the debris. Her armor was cracked, scorched in places, and her limbs trembled from pain and exhaustion. She was an alien, a warrior from a proud and ancient species, known for their strength and fierce independence. But now, wounded and disoriented, she felt the weight of helplessness pressing down on her like the sky itself. She had fought fiercely against the enemy forces, but the attack had been overwhelming. The explosion that tore through her ship had left her separated from her crew, alone in a foreign land where survival seemed impossible. Every breath hurt, every movement sent sharp pains through her body, and the thought of being found by the enemy filled her with dread. Yet, she could not remain hidden forever. She needed help, though the very thought of accepting it stirred conflict within her prideful heart. From the twisted metal and smoking debris, a soft sound approached, careful, deliberate, and almost gentle. At first, she thought it was a trap. Some enemy scout coming to finish the job. Her instincts screamed at her to prepare for combat, to fight to her last breath. But then, a figure emerged from the haze, moving with calm confidence rather than aggression. The human looked ordinary at first glance, a man in a white coat with a medkit strapped to his side, but there was something in his eyes that made her hesitate. They were steady, focused, and unafraid. He knelt down a few meters away, scanning the area for danger before moving closer. "I see you're hurt," he said, his voice even and gentle, though accented in a way she barely recognized. "I can help you." She glared at him, instincts and pride battling against the raw need inside her. Her species had long considered humans weak, fragile, and unworthy of trust in war. They were clever in their own ways, yes, but never warriors like her people. To accept help from one would feel like surrender. Yet, her body screamed for relief, for someone to tend to the injuries that left her unable to move properly. The human did not hesitate or retreat. He approached carefully, kneeling beside her and opening his medkit. Tools, bandages, and various instruments lay neatly arranged. And he picked up a clean cloth. "I'll be gentle," he said. "You need to stop the bleeding first." Pain shot through her side as he touched a jagged tear in her armor. She hissed and tried to pull away, but he held her firmly without force. "I won't hurt you," he assured her. "Just trust me for a moment." Her pride bristled. Trust was not something she gave lightly, especially to humans. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw no malice, no hunger for advantage, only concern. The thought was almost incomprehensible. Never had she met a human willing to risk themselves for the sake of another being, especially one from a species they were conditioned to see as alien and potentially hostile. With a shaky breath, she allowed him to work. He cleaned the wound carefully, applying antiseptic with a precision that suggested years of training. His hands were steady despite the smoky chaos around them, and he never flinched at the sight of blood. She watched, torn between disbelief and a growing curiosity. "How? Why are you helping me?" she finally asked, her voice hoarse, almost a whisper. The human paused, glancing at her. "Because it's the right thing to do. You're hurt. I can help. That's all that matters right now." The simplicity of the answer stunned her. No strategy, no political calculation, no expectation of reward, just pure compassion. She had never encountered anything like it. Her species respected strength and cunning. But this was different. It was almost alien, in a sense, to her understanding of the universe. Minutes passed as he tended to her injuries. Every movement he made was careful, deliberate, and respectful. He checked her pulse, cleaned cuts, and wrapped bandages with a skill that went beyond mere medical knowledge. She noticed small gestures too, a gentle adjustment of her position when she winced, a soft word to reassure her when she flinched from pain. Each act chipped away at the walls she had built around herself, built from years of training to distrust, to fight, to survive alone. When he finally finished bandaging her side, he stepped back slightly, giving her space. "Better?" he asked. She nodded cautiously, still wary. The pain had dulled, though it lingered, a reminder of her vulnerability. Yet, the feeling that unsettled her most was not pain. It was surprise. The human had shown her something she had never expected to see. Genuine, selfless care. I am not used to this," she admitted, her voice still weak. "My people, they would never," he prompted gently. "They would never allow weakness. They would never allow trust in someone like you," she said, her words sharp despite her exhaustion. She could not help but notice the tension in her own voice, the mixture of fear, disbelief, and curiosity. "Humans, they are fragile." He shook his head slightly, smiling faintly. "Fragile? Maybe. But strength isn't always about weapons or armor. Sometimes it's about courage, compassion, and knowing when to help someone who cannot defend themselves. You're stronger than you think. But you don't have to be alone." She studied him, trying to reconcile what she had been taught with the reality before her. The human did not rush her, did not demand her gratitude or allegiance. He simply existed in this moment with one goal: to save her. And somehow, that was enough to make her feel a flicker of hope, something she had not felt in a long time. The sounds of distant conflict reminded her that danger was still near. But the immediate threat, the one that gnawed at her chest more than the physical injuries, was the uncertainty of what she should do next. Could she trust this human? Could she allow herself to depend on someone so completely foreign, so unlike her own kind? Before she could answer, he spoke again, his tone calm but firm. "We need to get you off this battlefield. You're not safe here. And your wounds need proper care. Can you stand?" She tried, wincing as pain flared through her legs and back. The movement was awkward, unsteady, and humiliating for someone who prided herself on strength and independence. Yet, when she looked at him, she saw patience, not judgment. He offered his arm, steady and unwavering, and she accepted it reluctantly, feeling her pride wrestle with necessity. Together, they moved through the smoky landscape, each step a challenge, each breath a test of endurance. She noticed the small details, the careful way he navigated around debris, the protective positioning as he guided her away from unstable wreckage. It was meticulous and careful, and for the first time, she began to see humans not as weaklings, but as resourceful and resilient beings, capable of courage in unexpected ways. When they finally reached a transport vehicle, she paused, looking at the human. You could have left me," she said, her voice barely audible. "You didn't have to risk yourself for someone like me." He looked at her with calm certainty. "I didn't think about risk. I thought about helping. That's what matters. You're alive now, and we can work on healing the rest. That's all that counts." The alien woman felt a strange warmth in her chest, something she had not expected: gratitude, respect, and a hint of admiration. Her species valued strength, cunning, and survival above all else. But she was beginning to understand that there was another kind of strength, one that could be found in compassion, in patience, and in the courage to help when there was nothing to gain. As the vehicle lifted off the ground, carrying them away from the battlefield, she leaned back and allowed herself a rare moment of vulnerability. For the first time in her life, she did not have to fight alone. A human had shown her that even in a universe filled with violence and betrayal, there could be moments of kindness and trust, and that perhaps she was not as alone as she had believed. And though she would not say it aloud, not yet, she was beginning to wonder if her understanding of humans, of strength, and of herself would never be the same again. The vehicle hummed steadily as it carried them away from the smoke and ruin of the battlefield. Inside, the alien woman reclined against the seat, her body still aching from wounds both seen and unseen. The human doctor remained close, checking her bandages and adjusting his equipment with quiet precision. The interior of the craft was clean and orderly, a sharp contrast to the devastation outside. She found herself watching him, curious and cautious. Every small movement he made seemed deliberate, yet effortless, and she realized that his presence alone was calming. She had expected fear, hesitation, or even hostility from a human. Yet here was one who had risked his life without a second thought. She did not understand it fully, and part of her was wary. Trust was not something she gave freely, especially not to someone from a species her own had considered weak. Yet, with each careful touch, each soft word, a seed of something unfamiliar began to grow inside her. "You are quiet," the human said after a while, glancing at her. "Do you want to talk about it?" She hesitated, then shook her head slightly. I am not used to speaking of pain. My people, we endure. We do not complain. Enduring is one thing," he said gently. "Ignoring it is another. I need to know how bad it is to help you properly. If you hide it, I can't do my job." She found herself studying him, noticing the patience in his tone. There was no judgment, no impatience, just concern. That simple, straightforward concern was something she had never experienced from anyone outside her own species. Even her comrades, though skilled and loyal, measured care against usefulness. Humans, it seemed, had a different kind of measure. I do not know if I can trust humans," she admitted finally, her voice low. "Your kind has always seemed weak, fragile, easily broken." He smiled faintly. "Weak? Maybe in some ways, but there are strengths that do not come from physical power. Courage, compassion, and determination can be stronger than weapons or armor. You may not see it yet, but humans can be surprisingly resilient." She looked away, unsure whether to believe him. Her species had drilled into her the belief that humans were inferior, incapable of surviving in true battle, or of offering anything beyond themselves. Yet here he was, calmly tending to her, risking himself without hesitation, demonstrating a strength she had never acknowledged. It unsettled her, and part of her felt admiration mingled with disbelief. Hours passed as the craft moved toward a human medical outpost on a nearby moon. She had little energy to talk, but the human doctor remained close, keeping watch over her. At times, she noticed him glance at the door, as if checking for potential danger. Yet his focus never wavered from her condition. Even the smallest gestures, the adjustment of a blanket, a soft tap on her shoulder to encourage her to drink, felt extraordinary to her. When they finally landed, the doctor guided her carefully onto a hover stretcher and into a clean, brightly lit room. The walls were lined with equipment and screens, all humming quietly with energy. It was far removed from the chaos of the battlefield, a place of order and healing. She watched him work, cleaning her wounds with meticulous care, setting up monitoring devices, and speaking softly all the while. "You are doing much better," he said, after finishing the first round of treatment. "Your injuries are severe, but manageable. You will recover if we continue this care." She nodded, though pride still made her uneasy. She had survived countless battles, faced enemies she could not even name. And yet here she was, reliant on a human. The feeling was uncomfortable, almost shameful. Yet there was an undeniable relief in it. For the first time, she could rest without worrying about hiding her vulnerability. Days passed, and the alien woman slowly began to regain strength. She could sit upright, move her limbs more freely, and even stand with assistance. Throughout it all, the human doctor remained patient, never rushing her, never forcing her to comply. His care was steady and unwavering, and gradually, she found herself letting her guard down, if only a little. She began to observe the humans around her, noting their quiet routines and small acts of kindness. Crew members who seemed ordinary at first revealed layers of skill, empathy, and cleverness. They moved through the outpost with purpose, responding to emergencies, providing aid to injured beings of all species, and demonstrating resilience she had not expected. Her perception of humans shifted subtly each day. One evening, as she rested in her room, the human doctor entered quietly, holding a small tray of food. "You should eat something," he said. "Your body needs energy to heal." She hesitated. Food was always a ritual in her culture, and accepting it from someone else felt strange. Yet the smell was inviting. The thought of nourishment, comforting. I will try," she said cautiously. He nodded, setting the tray down beside her. "Take your time. No rush." As she ate, she found herself speaking, slowly at first, then more freely. She told him fragments of her life, her training, her missions, the expectations of her people. He listened without interruption, without judgment, asking questions only to clarify, never to pry. Each time she spoke, she felt a little lighter, the weight of isolation easing. "You speak of your people with pride," he observed. "They sound like a strong and disciplined culture. You must carry a lot of responsibility." She nodded. "Strength and discipline are everything. Weakness brings dishonor. Compassion is secondary. It is rare to see." He smiled faintly. "Maybe that's why it's important. Compassion is a strength in its own way. You've seen it, even if you didn't recognize it before. And you're learning it now, in your own way." Her brow furrowed. Learning compassion? She did not understand it fully. She had seen acts of care before, but never so selfless, so patient, and so consistent. Humans, it seemed, had a way of giving without expectation, of helping without judgment. It challenged everything she had believed about other species and perhaps about herself. Weeks passed, and the alien woman's recovery continued. She began to move independently around the outpost, practicing small exercises to regain strength. The human doctor guided her when necessary, but mostly he allowed her autonomy, offering help only when required. Each time she succeeded, she felt a growing sense of self-respect. Not just for her physical progress, but for the courage to accept help, to trust another being. Then came the day when a warning alarm blared through the outpost. The screens lit up with images of another skirmish. Her people were under attack again. She froze, torn between instinct and reason. Her pride demanded she intervene, to rush to their aid, to fight as she always had. But her body was still recovering, and the human doctor stepped forward, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to go alone," he said. "We can plan this together. You are stronger than you realize, but you are not invincible. I can help." For the first time, she hesitated not from fear, but from a deep confusion. This human offered partnership, not control. He respected her strength while acknowledging her limits. She realized that perhaps humans had a different kind of courage, one that did not diminish her own but complemented it. Finally, she nodded, a small but deliberate gesture. "Very well, we will go together." The human doctor smiled faintly. "Good, we will prepare. Your people need you, but so does your life. And we cannot help anyone if you are lost." As they began planning, she observed him carefully, noting the calm authority in his voice, the way he considered every detail without panic, the way he valued life over victory. She felt something shift within her, a respect, a sense of trust. And perhaps something deeper that she did not yet have words for. For the first time since her ship was destroyed, she allowed herself to believe that humans were more than fragile beings. They were resilient, resourceful, and capable of remarkable courage. And in that realization, she found not only hope for herself, but for the possibility that the future once so uncertain might hold alliances, trust, and even friendship she had never imagined. She looked at the human doctor, who met her gaze with quiet patience and silently acknowledged it. For the first time, she felt that her wounds were not just physical. Her pride, her understanding, and her heart had been touched by something rare. Genuine care, offered freely, without condition or expectation. And as she prepared to face the challenges ahead, she understood that she would carry this lesson with her, not just the memory of pain, but the knowledge that even in a universe filled with conflict and uncertainty, Compassion and courage could shine as brightly as any weapon or armor. The alien woman stood near the large observation window of the outpost, gazing down at the battlefield below. Smoke still curled from the cratered surface, and the movement of distant ships reminded her that conflict was never far away. Her body had healed enough to stand unassisted, yet her mind and pride wrestled with the dilemma ahead. Her people were in danger, and her instincts screamed that she should rush to their aid immediately. But this time, she was not alone, and the human doctor's presence beside her gave her pause. "We need a plan," the doctor said calmly, breaking her thoughts. "You are strong, but rushing in without strategy could cost lives. Not just yours, but others too." She turned to look at him, studying his face for any trace of hesitation. There was none. He had risked himself for her once, and now he spoke with quiet authority and clear intelligence. It unsettled her in a way she did not expect. This human, so ordinary in appearance, had an understanding of courage and tactics that rivaled seasoned warriors. I am not used to relying on others," she admitted, her voice low. "My people, we face danger alone. Weakness is unacceptable. Relying on others does not make you weak," he said gently. "It makes you adaptable. Courage comes in many forms, and sometimes the strongest choice is knowing when to accept help." She hesitated, considering his words. She had always measured strength by the ability to survive alone, to carry the burden of battle without faltering. Yet here, with her body restored and her mind clear, she saw that strength could also mean cooperation, strategy, and trust. The lesson was unfamiliar but compelling. "Very well," she said finally, determination entering her tone. "We will do this together. But I will lead. My people must see me first, or they will falter." The human doctor nodded. "Then, we lead. Together. I'll support you. We will make sure you can fight without unnecessary risk." Preparation began immediately. The alien woman studied maps of the battlefield projected on the holographic display, noting enemy positions and terrain features. The human doctor added input where he could, suggesting alternative paths and strategies that minimize danger while maximizing their chances of success. She was surprised at his insight. He was not a warrior in the traditional sense, but his understanding of tactics and human ingenuity added depth to the plan. When the preparations were complete, they suited up and boarded a transport ship. She moved with precision and grace, each step measured, each gesture purposeful. The human doctor followed, steady and confident, carrying medical supplies and additional equipment. He had insisted on accompanying her, and she had reluctantly agreed. Part of her wanted to reject any help. Yet another part, one she did not fully understand, welcomed it. As they descended toward the battlefield, the alien woman's senses heightened. She scanned for enemy movements, assessing threats with the instincts of a trained warrior. The terrain was harsh, filled with craters, debris, and jagged rocks that could serve as cover or traps. The human doctor remained close, observing and adjusting equipment, occasionally offering advice on environmental hazards. She realized that while he was not a fighter like her, his awareness and calm under pressure complemented her skills in ways she had not anticipated. They landed near a ridge overlooking a group of her people pinned down by the enemy. Smoke rose from damaged vehicles, and energy weapons scorched the ground in bursts of light. The alien woman's pulse quickened, but she drew a steadying breath. She would lead, but she would do so strategically, not recklessly. The human doctor handed her a small comm device. "You'll need this. If anything goes wrong, I can coordinate support and provide aid from a safe position." She took it, the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. It felt strange, relying on him, but the thought that she might save more lives because of his presence outweighed the discomfort. She activated her own communications, calling to her people. "Hold your ground. I am coming." Her voice carried authority and urgency, and she saw the effect immediately. Her comrades rallied, drawing courage from her presence. As they advanced, the enemy noticed them and fired. The alien woman moved with speed and precision, dodging blasts and returning fire with a controlled, lethal accuracy. The human doctor stayed slightly behind, providing tactical guidance, using portable devices to create temporary shields, and ensuring she avoided ambushes. She realized that his methods were unconventional, relying on intellect and creativity rather than brute force, and they worked. At one point, she found herself trapped in a narrow ravine, the enemy closing in from both sides. Her instincts screamed to fight alone, but she remembered the doctor's advice. Think, not just act, he had said. Using a portable device, he created a short burst of energy that disoriented the enemy, giving her the opening she needed to escape and counterattack. She felt a rush of exhilaration and surprise. His ingenuity had saved her, and she had fought with precision to take advantage of it. After the initial chaos, they regrouped with her people. The alien woman saw the mixture of relief and admiration on their faces. Her leadership and skill were unquestionable, but there was a new respect for the humans, particularly the doctor who had aided them without taking credit or seeking recognition. She felt an unfamiliar sense of gratitude and pride, not only for her own actions but for the partnership that had formed in the heat of battle. They pushed forward, clearing the area of enemy forces with coordinated precision. The alien woman led, and the human doctor supported, each complementing the other's abilities. It was a collaboration she had never expected but came to rely on quickly. She realized that the strength of humans was not always in physical prowess but in ingenuity, resilience, and an unyielding commitment to life. As the battle drew to a close, she finally allowed herself to rest, leaning against a damaged vehicle as the adrenaline ebbed. The human doctor approached, checking her for injuries and offering water. She accepted it without hesitation this time, feeling a trust that had been absent before. "You fought well," he said quietly. "Your people are safe, and we made it through without anyone dying unnecessarily. That's success." She studied him, her chest still pounding from exertion. I underestimated humans," she admitted. "Not your kind as a whole, but you, specifically. Your actions, they are remarkable." He smiled faintly. "You might be surprised how often humans surprise people. Not all of us are warriors, but we find ways to survive, to help, and to adapt. That's how we endure." For the first time, she felt a real connection to another being beyond her own species. The respect she felt was not only professional, but personal. This human had proven that compassion and courage could coexist, that intelligence and creativity were forms of strength as vital as any weapon. She understood now that pride and independence did not have to exclude trust and cooperation. They could complement each other. Her people began to regroup, tending to their own wounded and reinforcing positions. The alien woman watched, reflecting on the events of the past days. She had survived, healed, and returned to lead. Yet the most important lesson she carried was not about combat or strategy. It was about understanding the nature of strength itself. Humans, she realized, had a resilience born not of muscle or armor, but of heart and mind. The human doctor approached again, offering a quiet nod. "You did well today," he said simply. "Not just as a fighter, but as a leader. Your people needed that, and you delivered." She nodded, feeling a rare humility mingled with pride. "I could not have done it without you," she admitted. The words surprised her, but she meant them fully. "Your guidance, your aid, it was invaluable." He shook his head, a small smile on his lips. "We helped each other. That's what matters." The alien woman looked out over the battlefield, the sun beginning to set, casting long shadows over the twisted landscape. She felt a sense of accomplishment, yes, but also a quiet reflection on the nature of courage, trust, and cooperation. Humans, she realized, were far more than she had been taught to believe. They were inventive, adaptable, and capable of remarkable acts of bravery and compassion. And in that realization, she felt something else stirring, an understanding that her journey was far from over. There would be more battles, more challenges, and perhaps more moments where she would have to rely on others. But now, she faced them with a new perspective. a new respect for humans, and a quiet hope that strength could come in many forms, sometimes from the most unexpected places. As night fell, she stood among her people, looking at the human doctor, who had become an unexpected ally and guide. She did not yet know how deep their connection would grow, but she knew one thing with certainty. His courage, intelligence, and unwavering compassion had forever changed her understanding of strength, loyalty, and trust. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that the future, no matter how uncertain, could be shaped not just by her own skill and pride, but by the bonds she was willing to form with those she had once considered too weak to matter. The alien woman stood at the edge of the battlefield, her eyes scanning the horizon where smoke and fire had begun to fade with the rising sun. The enemy forces had been driven back. Her people were regrouping. And for the first time in days, she allowed herself a deep, steady breath. The battle had tested her body, her mind, and her pride. Yet she had survived. She had led her people, and she had done so with a human by her side, an ally she could never have imagined, trusting so fully. The human doctor approached, carrying a small satchel filled with supplies. He moved with the same calm precision that had saved her countless times in the past days. She noticed the way he surveyed the battlefield, noting wounded soldiers and damaged equipment, already planning how to aid those in need. His eyes briefly met hers, offering a quiet reassurance, and she felt a strange warmth in her chest. "You've done well," he said quietly. "Your people are safe. They will recover. And you," he paused, glancing at her injuries, "you've endured more than anyone should have to endure." She shook her head, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "I did what I had to do. That is what my people would expect. But I would not have succeeded without you." He shrugged lightly, as if brushing off praise. "We helped each other. That's what matters. Strength comes in many forms. Today, you led with courage. I only made sure you could do it safely." Dumb. She studied him for a moment, recalling every act of care, every tactical suggestion, every word of encouragement he had offered. He had never demanded her gratitude, yet he had earned it simply by being steadfast, intelligent, and compassionate. The realization struck her fully. Humans were not weak, nor were they insignificant. Their resilience, their ingenuity, and their willingness to act for the sake of others made them formidable in ways her species had never acknowledged. Her people were beginning to gather around, tending to their wounded and assessing the damage. The alien woman walked among them, offering words of reassurance, guidance, and strategy. She noticed the subtle glances they cast toward the human doctor, curious, respectful, and perhaps even slightly astonished at the role he had played in the rescue. She felt a sense of pride, not in her victory alone, but in the way the humans had integrated seamlessly into the efforts to save lives. As the day wore on, the alien woman and the doctor moved to a quieter area near a stream that ran through the terrain. The sound of water and the warmth of sunlight offered a rare moment of peace. She sat on a flat rock, letting the cool water wash over her hands, and felt a sense of clarity she had not experienced in weeks. "You've changed my view of humans," she admitted softly, almost to herself. "I believed your kind was fragile, limited, weak. Yet, through everything, you have shown strength, courage, and compassion that my people rarely see even among ourselves." He nodded, settling beside her. "Humans have flaws, yes. But we also have the capacity to endure, to adapt, and to care for each other in ways that sometimes surprise even us. I am glad you've seen it for yourself." She turned to look at him fully, her eyes reflecting a mix of admiration, gratitude, and something deeper she could not yet name. I never expected to trust a human. I thought that our worlds were too different, our strengths too incompatible. But you have proven me wrong." He smiled, a simple, warm expression that made her heart lift despite the exhaustion she still felt. "Trust is earned, not given freely. You've earned mine, just as I've earned yours. And together, we've made a difference today." The alien woman considered his words. Her species valued independence, pride, and the ability to face danger alone. Yet in these moments, she realized that collaboration did not diminish her strength. It amplified it. She had led, fought, and protected her people. But the human had enabled her to do so, in ways she could not have achieved alone. That understanding changed something fundamental within her, a recognition that strength could coexist with trust, and pride could exist alongside gratitude. Hours passed, and the alien woman returned to the outpost to oversee the care of her people. She watched the humans and aliens working side by side, offering supplies, tending wounds, and restoring order. Her respect for the human doctor and the humans as a whole deepened with every passing moment. They were not merely helpers, they were capable, resourceful, and resilient partners in survival. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she found herself alone with the doctor in one of the smaller medical bays. The room was quiet, illuminated by the soft glow of overhead lights. She seated herself on a bench, and he knelt beside her, checking the last of her injuries and ensuring that her vitals were stable. "You have healed remarkably fast," he said. "Your body is strong, but your mind, you've endured far more than most could." She allowed herself a faint laugh, a sound she had not made in weeks. "I thought strength was only in surviving alone, in never needing assistance. But I have learned that courage and strength can also be in trusting, in letting others aid you, and in recognizing the value of life beyond one's own." He nodded, listening intently. "Exactly. Strength is more than physical ability. It's resilience, intelligence, courage, and compassion combined. You've shown all of these qualities." She studied him, her gaze steady. "You changed my understanding of humans. I do not know if I can ever fully repay the debt I owe you." He shook his head with a gentle smile. "You don't owe me anything. The debt is mutual. You led, you inspired, and you fought with bravery. I only helped you achieve what you already were capable of." The alien woman considered this. In her culture, honor and gratitude were deeply intertwined, but she also understood that the human's perspective was different. He had acted without expectation of reward, without seeking recognition, motivated only by a desire to help. That thought left her in awe. A respect that ran deeper than anything she had previously felt for any being outside her own kind. As night fully settled over the outpost, the alien woman stepped outside to the open air. Stars stretched across the sky, vast and distant, yet closer here on this remote moon than anywhere she had known. She thought of her home planet, her comrades, and the lessons she had learned in the past days. Strength was not always measured by the ability to fight or survive alone. It was measured by courage, compassion, ingenuity, and the bonds formed through trust. Humans possessed these qualities in abundance, and she had witnessed them firsthand. The human doctor joined her silently, offering no words, simply standing beside her. She glanced at him, and for the first time, there was no need for speech. Their shared experiences, the battles, the recovery, the collaboration, had forged an unspoken understanding. Respect, gratitude, and trust flowed quietly between them. "I never imagined humans could be like this," she said softly, breaking the silence. "Not weak, not insignificant. You are remarkable in ways I did not comprehend." He smiled faintly. "We can surprise anyone who underestimates us. The important thing is that we continue to act with courage and compassion, no matter what others expect." She nodded, letting the words sink in. Her journey had begun in fear, pain, and uncertainty. She had been wounded, helpless, and alone. But through her encounters with the human doctor, she had discovered a different kind of strength, a strength that complemented her own, a strength that came from partnership, care, and understanding. The next morning, she convened with her people and the human team to discuss the recovery and rebuilding efforts. The alien woman spoke with authority, guiding her people while acknowledging the contributions of the humans. It was an unprecedented act for her species, who rarely recognized the value of outsiders in their own affairs. Yet the humans had proven themselves indispensable, and her people's respect grew as they saw the results of their collaboration. At the end of the day, the alien woman found herself once again beside the human doctor, gazing at the stars. "I thought I knew what it meant to be strong," she admitted. "But I have learned that strength without compassion, courage without trust, and skill without understanding is incomplete. You have shown me what I could not see before." End of Area 2. Previews all one. End of Area 2. 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 He regarded her quietly, the weight of her words evident. "You've grown too, in ways you might not even recognize yet. You've embraced courage, wisdom, and empathy while leading your people. That is true strength." She smiled, a mixture of pride, relief, and newfound understanding. "I am grateful, not only for your help, but for the lesson you have given me about humans and about strength itself." He nodded, and neither spoke for a long moment. Words were unnecessary. The bond forged through battle, trust, and care was enough. The alien woman, once wounded and helpless, now stood not only as a survivor and a leader, but as a being transformed by the experience. She had seen the best of humanity and recognized that courage and compassion were just as powerful as any weapon or skill. As they turned back toward the outpost together, she felt a sense of completion. The battles were not over, and challenges would surely come again, but she knew that with courage, trust, and the unexpected strength of humans, there was little she could not face. And she carried with her the understanding that some of the greatest victories were not won by might alone, but by the quiet, steady acts of compassion and bravery that changed lives and hearts forever.